Meet Rei Kawakubo, one of several Japanese fashion designers coming out of the late 20th century that put Japanese couture on the global stage. Kawakubo was born in 1942 in Tokyo, Japan, amidst a World War II climate. From a young age, she studied women's rights and the aesthetics of art. She started her own fashion brand in 1969 called Comme des Garçons.
Let's get rid of the ideas that have been around for a long time, such as folklore and traditions, and let's start again with something new.
Kawakubo states, referring to Japanese fashion from the 1920s and 30s, we had to get away from the folkloric. Thus began Rei Kawakubo's trademark deconstructivism. In using asymmetrical cutting, distressed and torn fabrics, unconventional layering techniques, and modern avant-garde silhouettes, Kawakubo sought to sell a narrative within the clothing, a narrative coming out of post-war Japan, which she grew up within, and one that emphasized that elegance does not equal beauty. She sought to defy the sexuality of clothing in the fashion world, and create clothing that obscures gender, baggy silhouettes, the covering of the bust, waist, and hips to create proportions that are expressive and beautiful, but not objectifying. Kawakubo's fashion damages the idea of a monolithic Japan by creating elaborate artistic works that vary greatly from traditional styles. Her work, as well as many other Japanese designers such as Yohji Yamamoto, Kenzo, and Hanae Mori, represent the stories of Japanese people rather than depicting stereotypical geisha styles or popular Harajuku styles. In their work, there is truth and narrative. Kawakubo in particular, enabled by her creativity and avant-garde style, does not allow her Japanese identity to define her work, even when it is influenced by Japanese artifacts. In Kawakubo's works that feature deconstruction and distress, she is defying a monolithic Japan by stripping away the Western perception, a sakura petal-colored veneer, to depict the real emotional and economic turmoil caused by World War II. In these works, holes, fading, and loose threads work as narrative tools, an image of struggle and perseverance. Additionally, the idea of Japan as a clean, immaculate, and obedient is destroyed. Other than through storytelling, Kawakubo defies traditional ideas of Japan by starting her own company under a French name, Comme des Garçons, meaning like the boys, and propelling it into international renown. Although begun by a Japanese woman, the brand and art itself becomes more than just Japanese fashion. It doesn't exist under just one nation. It is not isolated to Japan. What does it become once it crosses that boundary? Next, let's take a look at a handful of eras that Rei Kawakubo's work went through, and discuss how they factor into the deconstruction of culture. Firstly, let's look at a collection entitled Self-Other. This following excerpt is from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Self-Other highlights Kawakubo's exploration of hybrid identities that blur the boundaries of conventional definitions of culture, gender, and age. The works featured in the East-West and male-female subsections combine Eastern and Western and masculine and feminine clothing traditions. Historically, these are loosely defined by wrapping and draping in relation to Eastern and feminine garments, and by tailoring with respect to Western and masculine garments. In this collection, Kawakubo breaks down the myth of the homogeneous nation of Japan by questioning the division between East and West, and subverting gender norms in the clothing. Next, let's look at a collection entitled War Peace. This collection is linked to Kawakubo's defiance and frustration with the status quo, and anger and indignation at conditions in society. It features floral themes with a primary color palette of red and white. The garments in this collection reflect a motif of strife coming out of World War II, and a dedication to finding the beauty underneath the strife. Once again, Japan as a monolithic nation is broken down as we see the imperfections of Japan through Kawakubo's art and the real experiences of Japanese citizens.